Welcome back, everyone. So this next session is usually when I'm shouting at the back of the room, getting them to turn the air conditioning on to freezing, because we can't get through one of these days without talking about data management and Autodesk Vault, I'm afraid. So whilst this is historically quite a dull subject, it's really important, and it's really important that you both understand and appreciate why having good quality data management and having the right automation in the right way without being too difficult, convoluted and mundane is really important. So I'm going to try and stay upbeat and keep this as interesting and as exciting as it can be throughout the next 45 minutes or so with my colleague Chris. So kind of a pattern emerging. We're going to start this with a bit of a poll and just throw a question out there to get you all thinking about why this stuff is so important. So the question that I want to ask the room is, on average, how long do you think either you or your designers spend searching for data? So how much time is lost? Do you think that is an hour? Do you think that's as little as 20 minutes, as much as 2 hours, or as much as even 3 hours per day? So I'll give you 20 seconds or so. The answers will pop up on your screen. Please select one, and then we will go through them. Cool. Okay, so I'm getting waved at to say that we've got some answers, which is good. So let's just have a little look and see what we have. Firstly, thank you for taking part in that short poll. Okay, I thought you'd go for the shorter one, if I'm honest, but it looks like that you all appreciate that some time is spent or lost spent searching for files. And you know, in my opinion, there wasn't really a right answer to this. I'm going to tell you the answer that you will always hear in polls and in statistics from Autodesk and other similar organisations. But you know, it's common knowledge that as a designer or as a design manager, that you and your team will be spending a huge amount of time per day searching for files, searching for design-related files. And actually, when you find those files, who's to say that they're actually the right revision or the correct version, and that actually they're the ones that you should be updating or working on or even approving or manufacturing. So thank you for that. Now, what you might be interested to know is actually, if you were to look at the statistics that these companies like Autodesk and what have you put together, it's actually more like 2.5 hours on average that the average designer loses per day searching for stuff, whether that's an Inventor assembly, whether that's the drawing, a GA. You know, that's a lot of time that they're not spending doing what they do best, which is designing, not searching for files. And against that, you know, we're all human, and unfortunately, we do make mistakes from time to time. So, you know, we've really got to be careful, especially when procedures within a business can be quite complicated. They can be complex. So trying to make things as easy as we can for the people within our teams, our designers, our engineering teams, so that they know without any shadow of doubt that they can go into a location, they click on a file, and that file will always be, for example, the most up-to-date revision. So they have you know, no risk of updating, editing, or even manufacturing and fabricating the wrong version of a file, for example. Even in the smallest of manufacturing companies, the smallest of issues or mistakes can have such a huge impact across the board. So, you know, it's really important that in this new world that we find ourselves in, we you know, we've really got to make the most of where we are and what we're doing. So, even on top of that, how many of you out there are actually creating PDFs manually? So whenever you've gone in and created a design, or finished a design, you're creating a PDF manually to then fire across to the shop floor. How many of you are doing that manually rather than doing that through an automated process, for example? It's a waste of time and therefore, a waste of money at the end of the day. So what we need to be able to do is find a way to find what we need and find it quickly without costing us time and effort. We also need a way that we can automate mundane tasks, automate processes that happen time and time again to be able to eliminate human errors. So, you've got the old phrase, what happens if Joe Bloggs gets hit by a bus? That's always worrying for most businesses. What happens if John over there, who knows where all the data is and he's in charge of it and only he knows about it? What if something happens to John and he can't be there to advise or support someone with that data moving forward? That's something that we just need to get away from, and we don't need to be in that world anymore. We should have found out certainly over the last few months that we're in a world that things should be easy, and they are, and they can be. So how many times has your business spent time or therefore money on manufacturing a previous version of a product? Because that's what the shop floor have that drawing of, so they're not working on the latest and greatest. Scrap is probably the single one thing that if I asked any of you what's the most or the most expensive mistake that you make, it will be scrap. And we're littered of examples in the industry about people having too much scrap, whether that's because they've not made things in the right way, they've not optimized their designs using something like mold flow for plastic injection molding, for example. There's all sorts of different ways that this scrap comes about. Let's not make it because someone hasn't communicated a change or hasn't collaborated effectively with the wider team, because they're things that we should just so easily be able to get around. Today we're communicating via cameras across the internet, so we shouldn't be able to not do that same thing electronically with someone sat on the opposite side of the room. We shouldn't have to go over there with a piece of paper to do an engineering change order or whatever it might be. We really should be able to automate and make this easy for us and our teams. And actually, let me put that into a greater example. So how many of you, and the answer is probably all of you, buy in externally sourced components to go in your assemblies, whether it's a nut, a bolt, a washer, or something bigger? All of you is probably the correct answer to that. Fine, okay. But what happens if that supplier goes into liquidation? What happens if that supplier goes out of business? And you want to know how at risk you are if you provide a warranty. What does that mean? How nice would it be to be able to just select that at-risk component, let's say, and see every design that it's been used in, every customer that's bought a product that houses that individual component, so that we can, remove that risk from the business and make sure we deal on it in the best way possible. What if you could eliminate all of those human processes from your entire design? One thing that you'll see later on today when myself and Simon take you through merging manufacturing with BIM is how nice it is to be able to have an optimized and an automated process to just do things without even thinking or without even asking. So, for example, again, I'll use the PDF. You'll all be creating PDFs. You'll all be firing out PDFs, probably manually in a lot of cases when you finish the design. How nice would it be to know that if you give a design a big green tick or a nod or an approval, that you know that a PDF will be created, it will be stored in the right location, and given view-only permissions to the relevant people that need it. It might even share that with a client or someone outside of your organization. Powerful, and something that we have the ability to leverage day in, day out. And we'll see an example of that with not just PDFs, but actually BIM, Revit family designs later on. This is why businesses look at managing the most important assets within their business. The information, that's the most powerful thing that you have, that information that flows and is stored around your business. If you look at an individual engineer or an engineering team, the ability to very quickly find something based on its name, based on a property, the customer, the project name, based on what's within that design. Silly things like that just make it so much easier to find something. Even to go a step further, let's imagine that you're working on a design for the latest and greatest product. And as part of that, you've designed a new part or a new component. one thing that Chris will show you in the demonstration shortly is we can actually look at that individual component and make sure that we don't have any duplicates that exist within your existing database. And I'm not just meaning something with the same name, I actually mean something with the same geometry formation, so that regardless of what you've called it, part 1, actually an individual part number, whatever it might be, it will look at the design of the component and make sure that that doesn't exist elsewhere within your database. All of this allows you to do, what you're good at, which is focusing on engineering great products. So we're talking about Autodesk Vault from a technology perspective, data management, and really what this product sets out to do, although it can be a little bit mind-numbing, hopefully you're all still with me, is it tries to take complex and difficult and muddled up, jumbled up streams of information, collaborative processes, files stored in different locations. It really tries to take that jumbled mess and streamline it through an easy-to-use interface, collaborative tool sets, and tools made by designers for designers that sit inside the software that they are already used to using. To show you how this is now coming up to speed with the latest and greatest in technology and the modern world, is one way that we go about doing that now with Autodesk Vault is using a mobile app. And this is something that personally myself have been asking for absolutely years, ever since the first tablets or mainstream tablets like the iPad, if you like, were introduced into the market, because it's naturally something you'll want to do. The ability to log into a mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a phone, be able to search for your data, look at that data, push that data through a workflow, release or approve a file, even look at or process an engineering change order through that iPad. The ability to see a model, section a model, the ability to even look at an explosion from on a mobile device. That enables people that are maybe not used to using 3D technology, not used to driving an ordinary viewer, can very easily use iPad and touchscreen technology to be able to zoom in, zoom out, navigate around and interrogate that part or that assembly or even that drawing with more detail, with a level of more detail if they want to. And on that, I'm actually just going to hand over to Chris. Before I do so, I'm going to play a short video just to give us a bit of transition time so we can clean the workstation here and get Chris up here. And the video is just going to talk you through the mobile app and just show you what that can do. So it'll introduce some Vault concepts, introduce the Vault mobile app, and then my colleague Chris England will take you through some demonstrations using Autodesk Vault to really show how some of this stuff can come to life.
Autodesk Vault makes it easy to manage your design and engineering data. Vault mobile app makes it easy for you to access and work with your Vault Professional data from your mobile device. For every document author in your company, there are many document consumers who need to access your vaulted data. Document consumers may not have a dedicated workstation to access vaulted data. So what could be easier than accessing Vault from your mobile device? The Vault mobile app means that you don't need to go to your data will come to you. Search and navigate the Vault or use a QR code to associate vaulted data with drawings or equipment in the real world. View 2D and 3D files, measure components, and find the associated documentation all from your mobile device. Whether you are working on the shop floor or on the job site, bring your data with you with the Autodesk Vault mobile app.
Thank you, Rob. It's good to be here. My name is Chris England. I'm a technical expert here at Man & Machine, and seeing the Vault app in a video, I've seen it live as well. It's great. It's great to finally have the flexibility of a Vault application that can be on a mobile device. I think things like scanning the QR codes and being able to check things in and out, or not check things in and out on the fly, but certainly review them on the fly and create or push life cycles on when we're on the road. Some managers or people that need to be doing checks can't always access a computer, and it can certainly get the design process moving a lot quicker and more efficiently. So yeah, I'm going to be discussing Vault today, and I guess what we're going to be looking at and what we're going to be reviewing is I'm going to try and show Vault from a point of view of people that are looking at it for the first time, or so that you can get a bit more or a better idea of how it looks for the first time. But also for the people that have been using Vault for a long time, I'm going to try and show some of the advanced features, some of the advanced customizations within Vault and within Vault workflows that we can then add on to, I suppose, help automate certain features within our business, or just to help with some of the things that we do on a daily basis that we don't realize add up to a lot of time. So I'm just going to log in as administrator into my Vault. It's just a local Vault, so there's not much to it, and I don't think I have any other profiles, but that's not a problem. You'll see that we have the green bar at the bottom, which is one of the newer features. Thought I'd mention it because a lot of us log in as administrators with our own profiles, and it's just nice to be able to identify exactly when we're in as an administrator, so we can then color code our privileges, or based on our privileges. So the first thing I wanted to show was being able to search for a review, or to be able to do an advanced search. So obviously one of the biggest things within Vault is the ability to do searches based on certain criteria, whatever those criteria are. Obviously properties normally, but it could be any property or any field that you're looking for at the time. We've all done a Windows file search, and next day we came back and maybe we found the file we were looking for. Of course, the benefit with Vault is that it's quick and it's categorized, and we have lots of property fields that we can then search based on, or lots of criteria we can find. So I'm going to use, in this case, state, and mentioning the app and mentioning somebody that might be on the road on the fly, or looking for something on the fly and needing to find them, and especially if they're going to be for review, we can search based on a state, and we'll go for review, and we can say find, or firstly add it to the criteria and say find now. State contains for review. I don't currently have anything for review in my Vault, so that's fine. I'm going to go and save that. So saving a search for review by me can allow me to keep a search. So I can search for just about anything here. So I'm going to search just for revision and take that away. Sorry, lost my search criteria now. I should have added it first. So revision, A, add, and find. Naturally, I find everything within my Vault that's Rev A. Now, this could be useful for things like project numbers, stock numbers, things that are library items, and we can add multiple search criteria to help us get a more specific or more narrowed down search at the end of the day. Something like having for review by me, or apparently I spelt it row review by me, we can keep that search live, and anything that then gets added into that field or then meets those criteria will then automatically come into this field or into this folder. So I can keep going back to it, reviewing it. Another nice one to always do as a bit of a tip is to be checked out by me, because we all work on Vault each day and we do our various things, but we don't always remember to check everything in. So it's a nice folder to have checked out by me, that I can use your username within Vault as the search criteria. And we can then go at the end of the day and check which files are still checked out by us, and obviously check them back in as need be. So looking at Vault, it's got general folders, and what I've gone and done is I've added in an extra enhancement to my Vault, which is Data Standard. What Data Standard does is it allows us to create files, and when we're saving files from the products we use, whether it's AutoCAD or Inventor, we can then take our data standard, or make use of data standard to make sure that we're filling in our key properties each time. So you can see that if I right click on this folder, I can go and say something like new standard file, for example, and I get a window, which is the data standard window. You get access to it through Vault, Inventor, and in AutoCAD. So each product will offer a data standard. It can be customized for each accordingly. And based on the folder that I've selected, I can then go and give the file a name, and I can actually go and create any of my Inventor files here in Vault, which normally we can't create files. We normally create folders and then use our actual Inventor or AutoCAD to create the actual files. The benefit here is whatever the file is, and we can have specific rules for specific files, I can fill in metadata as I create the file, which, you know, a lot of us know, having used Vault, those of us that have, that it's all very well to have all these property fields, but if they're blank, like my for review or not finding anything, it's of no use to us. So Data Standard allows us to control the data that we input in as we create files, and ensures that when we check in something in, those key fields are filled in for our reference later on. I'm going to go to Inventor now and just show a bit of a workflow on the awning part that Rob showed us earlier, and I'll be demoing a bit later when we look into VRED. And looking at this part, I want to check it into Vault. Now, most of my parts are already in Vault, but I can go and see that 2 of the files aren't. And one of the newer functions that we have within Vault is to be able to find duplicates. We can either right-click on a file and say find duplicates, or just click find duplicates up here. It allows us to select a file or geometry, so we can actually select it in window as well. And we can search for duplicate geometry that's in our Vault. Now this has a twofold function. One will let us search for geometry, or based on geometry. So it'll look at the actual geometry of the file, and if there's something else that matches it exactly, it'll pick it up as a duplicate. And it also looks for naming conventions. So you can see that my Vault's not very well managed, but I've got multiple, and one of them is in my library. So I'm going to make sure that before I check this in, I'm going to replace all of those. So it says 40 occurrences of those have been replaced. And then also this little bolt over here, I can do the same. So I can go and say find duplicates. Right click on it, find duplicates. Let me click away and click on it again. Let's see if I can get it right third time. Third time lucky. Funny how it works out. Anyway, I'm going to then right click and replace all of those. And funny enough, I don't actually have any parts that need to be checked into my Vault, because those parts were already there. Now this can be handy when we work with data sets from external suppliers that are perhaps compressed, or have, you know, maybe we're sending a pack and go out and we're getting a pack and go back with edits or whatever it is. Obviously that pack and go contains all the files, but a lot of those files would be unchanged and would be in your Vault already. So you wouldn't necessarily want to check them in again and again. It can, you know, obviously greatly increase our database size, but also reduces the helpfulness of any searches we do later. So I really like that feature. I can now do the normal Vault tool, which I suppose most people would know Vault for, is the check-in, check-out feature. I can now check this assembly in. Upon checking it in, we can see that I have options to delete the local files and work on it. So what check-in actually means, if you are unaware, is that when I check something out, I've booked it out to me to work on. I've also done something else from Vault point of view. Is we keep Vault on a server. I'm then working locally with that data and checking it out onto my local machine so that I can work locally, which means that we don't have to rely on network traffic when we're actually working on data within our Vault. If I go and have a look for that folder, oh, where did I check it in? Perhaps it was this one. There we go. I can see that new assemblies coming in. All the parts were already there, I will not lie to you, but the assembly is new, and what's happened is it's already been assigned a category. So categories, you know, a simple thing within Vault, it is something that's generic to all the Vaults, but what can be important with categories is what they can assign to things. So having a category like engineering or office data or something like that, when it picks up certain rules, so it could be that it's a file extension contains an IPT, or project name contains a certain field, then it must be this kind of project or this kind of category. So electrical projects or mechanical projects if there's a certain code within the name. Or office documents, if it's an Excel or a Word or a PDF document, it must be an Office document, and that can assign a lifecycle. So life cycles allow us to be able to manage the workflow of our drawing office within Vault. So things like work in progress, for release, work in progress, for review, and then once it's reviewed, it can either go back to work in progress or to released, and maybe from released it can be quick change to released again, or to obsolete if the product gets discontinued or another one starts up in its stead. Now, that's all very well. I think a lot of us know about life cycles within Vault. What is important about it is what it can do for us from an automation point of view. Now, automating Vault is, some would say, a tedious topic, but if you think of the things that you do on a daily basis, managing data, things like, I don't know, counting parts for a bill of material if you've not even had a Vault before or used Inventor, things like sending an email to your boss to get a file checked, to be like, these drawings are done, need it checked. Something like that can be automated within the lifecycle process, i.e. I move my file from work in progress to for review, and all of a sudden an email is triggered to the person who needs to review it, and they now know, without me having to take, and it might be a minute, but it could be a minute spent 5 times a day, and across, multiple days within the week or within the year. Think of the time that can be saved just doing something simple like that. Other things we can automate is things like PDF creation and populating data within our title blocks. So I've got a drawing here that's already finished, and it's on work in progress. So if I move this drawing to the next state, and I maybe go from work in progress straight to released. Okay, so we can see that it now has moved the files, or some of the files, to to released, and within my lifecycle, I've used my lifecycle released state as a trigger. What that means is that my job processor, if it's still up, it doesn't look like it is, I'll just get it up. My job processor will now go and find a job via the job queue and go and do something with it. Now, we do have 2 kinds of job processes, I suppose, that we at Man & Machine implement. One being the standard job processor that comes with Autodesk, which is highly capable of doing what it does, i.e. synchronizing properties, creating automated PDFs, updating title blocks, revision blocks, and such like that. Perhaps, I suppose smaller tasks, but we also use another product called Cool Orange Power Jobs. Now, what that can allow is a multitude of things based on perhaps a release. You can have custom scripts for doing things. So Cool Orange allows us to go another step where we can then go and implement and use things like iLogic in conjunction with Vault. So have something checked out of our Vault or downloaded from our Vault, run in or open in Inventor, and something run, i.e. ERP. If we had an ERP scan folder or file, we could go and create an Excel document for our ERP systems to scan in Excel, and we can extract key properties to that Excel for the ERP to scan. Remembering that ERPs can be connected to Vault via API. Sometimes it's easier, or it's a good point to find common ground where scan folders are used rather than trying to directly link SQL, and things like that can be handy. So an example of this could be, if I right click on this part here, let's see if it's the right part I want to use. That's this part here, so this TT1. If I right click on this part here, I've got a saved folder on my desktop, hopefully, called this bomb import and part import. So I can run a Cool Orange rule to say ERP parts. Now what that's going to do is it's going to use the job processor, and I just want to make sure that I've got it running. So you can see that it's running a job process, and what it's actually going to do is it's going to open up an instance of Inventor and run an iLogic rule that's then going to extract key properties And oh, looks like it killed my session. Still running, so it's probably just killed my Vault and my Inventor session because I said re-register. It's always going to be something on a demo that goes wrong. Let's see if we can get it back open and just leave it be. Inventor needs re-registering. May have failed my rule. It's not too much of a problem. Yeah, it killed my rule because of the Inventor session being restarted. That's okay. So essentially what we can do is we can have these things create and automate certain tasks for us, like populating an Excel spreadsheet. So this could be creating drawing registers. This could be getting ERPs updated, getting, I don't know, a PDF to people that don't have access to the Vault, but maybe a folder within our server locations. So other things that have come into Vault that are now available is things like the duplicates dashboard. So I can go into the duplicates dashboard now and actually view how many duplicate files we have. Now, please don't judge me because it is a temporary Vault and it is a test Vault. So yes, I've got a lot of duplicate information, but it's more just for population purposes. But it allows us to quickly filter out and work out how many different files, or what the percentage of files that we're reusing. And the key is, much like we were doing in the Inventor search that I showed you earlier, is that, sorry, I want to get my Inventor up and running in the background, is that it's based on both duplicate geometry as well as naming conventions. It's not just like the simple Vault search that we had before, which if I quickly go and show you in my Vault settings, we have this find duplicate names. I think it explains itself is it's looking at names, whereas this is actually focusing on geometry. So, you know, reusing geometry that is both dimensionally the same as well as perhaps materials and all the rest or match up. It can be helpful to identify how many duplicates we're using and start working out, you know, perhaps if we're duplicating all this information, why are we not saving it into a neutral library? Why do we keep making the same geometry over and over again for each project, where we could just have one product that then matches all of those? And combined with the functionality I showed you in Inventor, it can be very, very powerful to be able to identify this stuff. So moving on with my my demonstration that crashed a second ago, but I'm going to play it cool. I'm going to open up this drawing and have a look at what it shows. Oh, looks like I'm getting another session of Inventor again. So, you know, when we look at things within a drawing or within any Inventor file, we can have certain processes that we need to keep up to date. So, for example, this state here is currently on work in progress. I need to log into my Vault quickly again. And it's opened up the second session. Oh, not winning today, it seems. So, we'll log in. And the state currently shows work in progress, whereas if I have a look in Vault, clearly it's released. Administrator's not supposed to see it locked, but that's okay. So if I go and run an update, and let's just make sure I don't have two instances open. Still do. Need to log into my second one. So leaving that as is, obviously because it's currently locked in my Vault, I can't actually check it out, which is a benefit of having it in the release lifecycle. So certain actions within the release states can be can be triggered. So, for example, obviously that drawing can't be updated. So we might want to use the job processor to go and access that drawing before it gets locked, or perhaps even in the locked or the release state, if it's allowed that the job processor can do it, to go and update those functions. And that's just some of the small things that I'm mentioning here that we can use to enhance our Vault workflows, or to automate certain tasks that we'd have to do, because someone would have to now go and put that, I suppose, into, or get enough permissions within Vault to go and unlock that. And you can see that it's currently locked, which means it's read only for everyone. Update that title block, and then lock it again, I guess, or make sure that they don't utilize it or edit it. I suppose it would have to be someone with a high level of control. Other things that life cycles can do, so within a release state, we can, or within certain states, we can have our user permissions control various different things for us. So, for example, in the work in progress, we only want our designers to be able to access that file. We don't want sales staff, or certainly not manufacturing staff, accessing a work in progress, because they may make the incorrect version of something. So upon something becoming released, it may only then become available for certain people to see. And because of this, the process, we can then work out how far, limit certain users that may not have CAD knowledge and be able to access things through CAD. We may be able to limit their ability to see something at certain periods in time, which can protect our data as well. We also have things like ECOs that we can use within Vault. We can run extra reports. So we can run reports on folders. So that can be things like being able to create various bills of material, and to be able to go and use other functionality. So our reports can help us from an administrative point of view as well, to see how many files within a project are still within the work in progress state. So we can combine them by writing custom reports that then show us, how long something was checked out of the Vault for example, and what sort of time the designers are spending on a certain project, or a certain design, or a certain model. And we can get key data out of the Vault that way. We can also use items and such to make bills of materials through the Vault, if it is indeed important to be able to get to that. And we can add various customizations. Things like changing categories, like I said, can trigger different file formats and give us different life cycles. But it's also important to remember that Vault can handle any file format that pretty much, if you can store it in Windows, you can store it in Vault for the most part. And because of that, we can also have other data, background data, kept within Vault. Things like, I suppose if you had external files, things like step files, or external third-party application files, you could also have things like all your Word documents, which Vault also plugs into Microsoft and allows you to work with it much the same as you do within your CAD data. And within Word, we can check documents in and check documents out. We can also use AutoCAD the same way, and there are other applications that do allow for a plugin as well. Alright, so I think, how much time do I have left there, Rob? Okay, so we're getting quite close to our time left. So just to leave you with one last thing on the data standard side, because I feel I didn't cover much on the data standard. It's also possible, so obviously I showed you that you can create a new standard file, which is fantastic. We can create an Inventor file within Vault, and vice versa. If we save in a file through Inventor or AutoCAD, it'll pop up with a list for us to populate our data sheets. Now, the other thing that it can do for us is it can allow us to have custom project templates, which essentially, if I go and say new standard folder, I can go and choose a certain kind of folder. So if I chose perhaps a project, that could then trail a bunch of folders. So for example, if every project within your Vault has a PDF folder, a drawing folder, a model folder, and you want to create that without having to repeat it each time, we can track those templates using the create standard folder within the Vault data standard. So it's a twofold function where, and once again, also that can have properties attached to those folders, and those folders can then, because I'm saving a file in those folders, can then drive the iProperties that are then falling in to the files that then land in that. Okay, so I guess that is all I want to show you for Vault for today. So yeah, if you do have any more questions, please do get in touch with us. But I believe it's time for a break, and we'll be back at 12:30. So thank you all for, sorry, 12:15. Sorry, my mistake. And we'll, yeah, please join us after the break.